Alongside Craig Button. Craig, we know William Nylander is one of the best wingers in the entire NHL. No doubt about that. 3 straight seasons of 80 points or more, almost had 100 last year. Back-to-back seasons of 40 goals. So, with all that as a backdrop, here's the question for you. The thought of moving William Nylander from the wing to center is a brilliant experiment or a recipe for disaster?
Well, it'd be wonderful if it was the first time we heard about this experiment. But it's an experiment that has been tried a number of times. And it's an experiment that has had no staying power for William Nylander to move into the middle of the ice. And Gino, as you pointed out, he's an elite winger in the National Hockey League. So you're going to take an elite winger, and now you're going to think about putting him into the middle of the ice where, just trying to be competent in that area of the ice is going to require time and patience. The Leafs have shown that they don't want to take that time and patience with William Nylander, and William Nylander has shown that he excels as a winger in the National Hockey League. So it speaks to a bigger problem for the Toronto Maple Leafs, the second line center. They have one of the best players on the planet in Austin Matthews as their number one center. Now trying to find a center that can play in that area. That's why the idea of William Nylander, what do we have? Because it's what they don't have. Let me pose this question to you, Gino. David Pastrnak, same age as William Nylander, they're great friends. He's an elite, one of the best wingers on the planet as well. Now, they had Bergeron, Krejci in Boston. Did you ever hear the Boston Bruins say after they lost those two centers, oh, we're going to think about putting David Pastrnak in the middle of the ice? No, they said, okay, we're going to have to find maybe a stopgap, which is what we saw last year. This past summer, they signed Elias Lindholm, and now they're trying to move forward. But never did the idea of David Pastrnak or the experiment take place in Boston because they know they have one of the best wingers on the planet. For the Toronto Maple Leafs, Nylander is exactly that, an elite winger in the National Hockey League. What the Toronto Maple Leafs have to do, instead of banding about, or what I should say, not the Toronto Maple Leafs, what anybody needs to do is not talk about the potential of Nylander going in the middle of the ice. What they should be talking about, how do the Toronto Maple Leafs address in a meaningful way a hole that exists in their number 2 center slot.
All right, let me take Craig Berube's stance for a second now. He looks at this roster and says, I don't have a second line center right now. So what are my best options? And maybe the idea that maybe at this point, one of his best options is moving a guy from the wing who could potentially play center and make the experiment with that. If you're Craig Berube, how do you fill that hole while you're waiting for your general manager to bring in a true second line center? What steps do you take in the interim?
Yeah, well, it's not up to Craig Berube to find that center. It's up to the manager to find the center. What Craig Berube has to do is put players into the positions that will allow them to play to the best of their abilities and allow the team to reach its potential. If you take William Nylander and put him in the middle of the ice, you're taking away an elite winger. So that's not allowing William Nylander to be the best of his abilities. And you're now taking somebody that's a threat from the wing and putting him into the middle as he's trying to become that center. Listen, John Tavares right now, we know that his game as a second-line center isn't as strong as it was when he joined the Leafs. But to me, that still remains their best option. You also have Max Domi. And by using those two players, now you don't lose William Nylander as that elite winger. So that's what I would be doing if I was Craig Berube. I am not taking the strength of William Nylander's game, which is as an elite winger, and putting him in the middle in the hope of trying to plug a hole. A square peg in a round hole, Gino, is exactly that. A square peg in a round hole. And that's what I see with William Nylander moving to the middle of the ice.
And this is not a good sign because training camp is not even open yet, and the Leafs are already looking to try to plug holes, and a significant one at second line center.